what's going on, y'all? T-Bob here.
And Jake as well.
And you're about to watch a little OTB LSU.
We're going to give you all the latest, greatest between LSU football, baseball, women's basketball, softball, and everything in between.
Bottom line, if you want to talk Tigers, keep it locked, subscribe, like it, and we hope you enjoy it. How was your Saturday, though, Matt? How'd you take in the debacle that was Alabama completely embarrassing and dismantling LSU?
I went to the game.
Fun.
Yeah, it was great. Sat in the bowl without a poncho.
Hell yeah.
Sat there and
the man in the element.
I just got wet like a man.
Look, at that point, though, it is a bit masochistic, where I'm sure there's some element of you that doesn't mind just being rained on, because it's what I deserve. We suck. We're awful. I don't deserve to be warm and comfortable. I just deserve to be sitting out here, getting wet, getting muddy, and watching my team lose.
It's really funny. I enjoy sitting in the bowl because, even the first drive of the game, you have the fans sitting around me, screaming at Nuss, and it's so funny to hear. He's wide open. He's wide open. They're everywhere. Yeah. What is he doing? And I'm like, guys, it's the second play of the game.
Yeah.
Relax a little bit. So I haven't gone back and watched the game. So I watched it live.
You're not missing much.
I watched it in my feels, so I don't have a lot of criticism. No constructive criticism like you like to hear.
Well, I think
about it, except just the overall, man, that sucked feeling.
Yeah, and look, we talked about it on Monday, or I don't even know what day it was. We kind of dove into it. The plan for Alabama was pretty obvious what they wanted to get done. That's why I think they were AA mugs. That's why they played 10 snaps to cover 0. They wanted to get the ball out of Nuss's hands fast. They didn't want him to be able to have the ability to find the receiver, and there was no plan to attack cover 0.
Well, as a defense or an offense, when you're game plan, you have your plan. You have adjustments that you're going to make if they can beat your plan. But we kind of broke down some film last week on AA gap mugs, or just a one mugger in the A gap.
Yeah,
that LSU likes to squeeze guards anytime, whether it's a 3-step or 5-step drop on a A gap mug, and put a running back on a defensive tackle. I don't know if we did that because I hadn't watched the game film.
Actually, no, I want to say one play I thought of you, because I want to say this time Mbinga stayed on the tackle and maybe left the linebacker for the back.
Yeah.
I could be thinking about a different game, but I'm pretty sure I saw that on Saturday.
But if you're a defensive coordinator and you make that call and all of a sudden you have success with it, you're going to call it again. You show a defense. So we used to, when we were playing Zimmer or whoever it was, I would do AA gap mugs. If you could show them early on, you can pick it up and gash them with it, they stop doing it. But if you're a defensive coordinator, he might have had 12 other defensive calls in his back pocket.
Yeah.
If we picked it up. We just saw the one, and we kept seeing it over and over and over because we couldn't pick it up.
Yeah, and I know Kane pretty well, the DC there, and he saw what A&M was able to do, and LSU never really had a solid plan for it as far as how they picked it up, and it really, it led to some bad plays in College Station, and we talked about it. So, of course, you're going to try to replicate that same game plan. Now, a little bit maybe different in how you get there, but it was the same game plan, and it gave you troubles again. You had three rushers a couple of times.
You got to be able to pick. You have to be able to adjust your pass plays too when you get those looks to make them pay for things. It wasn't always on third down they were doing that. Every single quote unquote passing down, second and long, you would see it, but it wasn't just third and long. So you should have things in your game plan, or hopefully you put things in your game plan that make them gash. If you AA gap mug and you're in a 3-by-1 set, 3 receivers on one side, a lot of times, if you want to bring pressure off that, you have to chase number 3 with somebody that's lined up in the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
And so you have to chase, or you have to drop in.
And the only person I know that could do that was Troy Polamalu. He ain't out there.
Yeah. And so we used to cut that because the Bears would do it, the Vikings would do it, and of course the Bengals would do it back in the day. We're going back in the day a little bit.
Yeah.
But you used to gash it by making a quick adjustment to number 3, running a quick like a drag route, not a drag route. most people think drag goes over. We called it a drag route, was basically a flat route.
Yeah.
And you block with the outside too.
So
or you run a lookie.
I feel like LSU
We
tried.
run looks. Yeah.
I feel like LSU was getting manipulated a bit into trying a lot of those swings and flat routes, and they were getting.
I would never run a swing.
Okay.
I don't. It's just a hard pass to complete.
Unless you're throwing it to me, right?
Unless you're throwing it to me, and then you got to throw. As if you're going to throw it to the right, you have to throw with the right tackle. The right tackle's got to throw.
Yeah.
I mean, throw. He's got to dive at
He's
the
got to
legs.
cut it. He's going to cut it.
I don't care. It doesn't matter if you make a successful cut or not. You have to dive at the legs.
Yeah, to get the hands down. Yeah.
That's the hard part about throwing bubble swings
Like
or
designed
bubbles.
ones, yeah.
A designed one, when you're not throwing at the defensive end, he gets upfield and he gets his hands up. So you're having to like sidearm it, throw it above. You know, it's hard to make an accurate throw.
To me, Matt, right now it looks like Nuss has had a couple times these last couple of weeks where he has thrown the ball and there's been a defender there that he did not expect to be there. And this is Nuss's first year starting. And so anything he goes through, this is his first time experiencing as a starter in major football. I would describe what he's in as a bit of a mini slump here. So it's kind of his first time slumping. And he's a quarterback that we've talked about. His greatest trait is probably his anticipation and the ability to like trust his read, see things before they're happening, and grip it and rip it. I feel like he's got a little hesitancy in his kind of in himself right now after getting duped a couple of times. Have you ever been through that where all of a sudden you feel like you're maybe not trusting yourself like you did as much before?
I think in any sport, any position, it's easy to get there.
Yes, I agree. So I'm saying, but like quarterback's different than, I could have that at center. I'm not going to nearly have, it's not nearly as detrimental.
It's not as impactful
No,
for sure.
no,
But
hell no.
when you don't have success, the human nature is to be a little bit unsure of yourself, lose a little confidence, lack it. That's why football's such a huge momentum game. That's why momentum swings are real, because confidence and the power of the mind, like that, if you believe you can do something a little bit more, you actually play a little bit better. If you kind of believe a little bit less, you take less chances. It's just a confidence thing, and that's accurate for every sport, every position, everything you do. It's just so much more highlighted at the quarterback position.
So how do you get through that though? When you're no longer trusting the thing that made you, that is probably your greatest strength. How do you work through that and get back to it?
That's a coach's job. Figure it out. Figure out how do you get your guy back in the spot. But at the end of the day, he's got to make the plays. If you want quarterback is hard. When they're double mugging and dropping defensive tackles, defensive ends, smugging people, it is hard.
Yeah.
With all these different zone pressures that people bring, and coaches are inventing stuff every other week on how to get. But when the more zone pressure, the more you disguise, the more holes there are. So there's a lot of different ways to game plan around it. I've never done it, so it's a hard thing to do. It's hard to make that game plan. It's hard to guess what they're going to do. You can't really do that. You just have to have answers for everything. And one way we always got people from leaving exotic pressures and exotic looks was going fast. Line up on the ball, call your basic plays. That's why everyone's like, why are they so good in 2 minutes? Why don't we just do that offense the whole time? They're just complete. You know why? Because they're going fast. Defense doesn't have time to get an exotic call from the sideline and line up. They have to line up in cover 2, cover 3. Maybe they bring a strong dog, cover 3,
they'll bring the nickel maybe,
zone, something like that. But they line up in base defenses, and you're running plays that you installed on day 1 of training camp, day 1 of spring training. So like, if we ever wanted to get people out of something, throw a change ball in there, and if it's 3rd and 7, like it's 2nd and 10, you get 3 yards.
Just hurry up on the ball, line. Yeah.
And call, I'll go hitch.
Yeah.
Call Hank, call like your basic plays and go out there and run it. If you want to get out of exotics.
I should also say Nuss's kind of hesitancy is not just because he's gotten duped a couple times, but this pass pro has kind of fallen apart the last couple of weeks in a lot of ways. And it's not losing your one-on-ones. Is some of that. Mabinga did struggle. I think the step down from Hindendelger really cannot be overstated. But, like, it's not identifying correctly. I mean, look at the fumble. It's an easy pickup. An easy pickup. Like, I don't care where your mic call was at a certain point. That mic's out of there. Like, the other linebackers come and just turn back.
Yep.
Like,
that's day one, right? I mean, for you.
That's what I'm saying. And so it's not like it's not just Nuss doubting himself, but I think he's also, these last couple of games are maybe leading in a bit of distrust of the pass protection and what our calls there are.
Yeah. And who got crushed by the court of public opinion on that fumble, too?
Yeah,
Nuss.
quarterback. Yeah,
of course.
Right. I mean, Chester got it pretty good too. The visual was bad for Chester. I mean, it doesn't take a certified ball knower to see somebody sitting there with the airplane arms, look at the linebacker, and then look away and let him run right by to know, like, that's bad.
In pass protection, there's rules. There's rules in place, but also like what T-Bob's talking about. Like, there's also, like, things that happen based off what they do. And I'll try to give an example. So back in the day, whenever we ran, like, 2-back, 21 personnel, if they brought 2 guys off the edge, okay, if they brought 2 guys, the fullback had the first guy, number 1 passed the mic call, and the tailback had number 2 pass the mic call, right? Okay, so that's your rule. Fullback, I've got 1. Tailback, you've got 2. Now, if number 2 comes, number 1 doesn't, fullback, you got him. It's like, well, hold up. You told me I had number 1. My guy didn't come. I got into my route. It's like, no, here's our rules. And that's how quick rules can change. It's like, okay, well, technically you don't have number 2, but you've got number 2 because your guy didn't come. Now he becomes number 1. We want the tailback out in the route. We don't want the fullback out in the route.
Yeah.
And like, those are the small nuances of pass protection that T-Bob's talking about. Like, the center, no, your mic guy dropped. But you also have to know, if your guy drops, we don't want the back on this backer. If we don't have to, we want him out. So your mic now, it kind of changes to this linebacker because he's the one guy that's coming. We've got 5 for 5, and let's get our guys out in route. That's just basic.
To paint the picture even a little bit more clear, just think if you have a fullback and a running back in, you have a Mike, Sam, and Will. Yeah, so you have a strong middle and weak side linebacker. Yeah. You call the Mike you would call Mike left on that, okay? It's because you want the lineman going, your 4 down lineman, and blocking the Will.
Yeah.
Fullback would be on the Mike.
Yep.
Running back would be on the Sam linebacker, the strong side linebacker. But if they only bring the strong side linebacker, who the running back technically has, you want the fullback blocking him because you want your running back out on the route.
Yep.
Yeah.
If they bring the Sam and the strong safety, all of a sudden now you got 2 for 2, but you got to move over 1. So like there's a starting rule, then there's an adjustment that usually is really common sense.
Exactly. I was trying to get to that but you're right. It is common sense. And so like that's the thing, T-Bob, that I think they're struggling with the most is the basic adjustment off the secondary action of what happens.
No, Elko and Alabama are giving them pre-snap reads, getting them into the calls they want them in, and then they're just bringing pressure from the opposite side, dropping guys out, and LSU's not trusting their, like we're saying, the rules systems that are in place to adjust for that on the fly. Wow, Jake, what incredible takes.
I mean, those guys, they're just the best.
I think so. And if you think so, again, hit the like button, subscribe, ring the bell so you get notifications when we post every single day here on OTB LSU.